Just a second. Yes. Okay. Ok. Estou gravando. Bom dia a todos, boa tarde a todos, boa noite a todos. É um prazer ter vocês aqui. A gente está começando o terceiro fórum sobre a pedagogia e performance do trompete. Esse evento que tem trazido muita alegria para nós aqui em Santa Maria. Esse ano, de forma remota, devido à pandemia que a humanidade está enfrentando, nós vamos ter 3 convidados nos próximos 3 dias. Vai ser uma experiência muito legal, né? Hoje a gente tem o professor Ronnie Ingle, amanhã a gente vai ter um show de mágica com trompete, de um trompetista dos canais da Holanda, e depois a gente vai ter uma troca de experiência com o Mark Nelson, trompetista da Orquestra de Dakota do Sul. Semana que vem ele está gravando com a Orquestra de Dakota do Sul, o Brandenburgo, no primeiro concerto deles, depois da pandemia. Então, para quem entende a questão do piccolo ali, a gente vai ser uma troca bem interessante naquela conversa ali. O Dr. Ingle tem sido assim uma pessoa muito iluminada no meu caminho, desde que eu cheguei nos Estados Unidos em 2010, e ele me recebeu no aeroporto de Grand Fox, e de lá a gente tem uma relação muito próxima. Ele foi meu orientador de mestrado, já veio no Brasil em alguns festivais que eu trabalhei, eu coordenei. Ano passado ele veio no festival da Universidade aqui de Santa Maria, e ele tem feito algumas apresentações por videoconferência aqui no nosso estúdio, e continuando esse contato que a gente tem, ele vai apresentar hoje na abertura do Fórum sobre a Pedagogia e Performance do Trompete. Então, eu vou passar para a língua inglesa, que vai ser a língua que a gente vai usar até o final dessa apresentação. O porquê disso? São muitas pessoas que se inscreveram, e a ideia é a gente alcançar o máximo de pessoas, principalmente falantes da língua portuguesa, que não têm acesso a essa metodologia, essa pedagogia que está disponível em outras línguas. Então, pensando nisso, eu só tenho 1 hora para conversar com essas pessoas. Então, se eu for fazer a tradução simultânea, eu vou perder pelo menos 20 minutos do tempo de 1 hora. Então, a ideia é a gente fazer a gravação na língua inglesa, em outro momento eu vou colocar a legenda e assim disponibilizar para todos os aplicantes, porque muita gente a grande maioria de quem se inscreveu não conseguiu, porque essa plataforma tem um limite de pessoas. Bom, então, vamos lá. Hi, Dr. Ingle.
Well, hello, Professor Clayton Miranda.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. That's our 3rd festival about the trumpet performance and teaching. Something like that, I'll tell you. Yeah, everybody that is listening to you here, they know you, they know about you. Some of them have a play for you, that have played for you, or even they know you through festival, through video, through talking. Thank you so much to being here with us. And this year started very positively here. We had big plans for the trumpet studio. We had the music festival. This forum should it's supposed to be presential. Last year, we had a very good, we had a trumpet player from São Paulo play hiding trumpet concerto with the orchestra. We have many things that happen. The competition this year is what we can do now. And thank you to help us here. And I wish you to share a little bit about your about your experience through the COVID, especially how did you prepare? Because you guys in the United States are in front of us in terms of academic semester, because you guys just started a new academic year. And through the pandemic time, it was summer up there. For us in Brazil, we started 1 week after Carnival. Everything was ready to start. 1 week after, we had a lockdown. So our semester basically didn't still happen. And if you could share a little bit how are you going through the situation, and they also talk a little bit about your beginnings as a trumpet player. I will give you the words.
Okay, well, what a pleasure it is to be a part of this trumpet forum. It's really an honor for me to do it. And you know, Dr. Miranda, for what you're doing for the trumpet community there, it's just tremendous. And anytime that I can be a part of something like this, I'm very, very happy to do that. I'm very proud of you as a former student, and very happy about what it is that you're doing there for the trumpet community. It really is tremendous. And I'll start by saying that since I don't speak Portuguese, I'll just stay with English. That's okay. You understand that, right? But I hope through this lecture today, I just want it to be beneficial. That's all that matters. And so in terms of doing that, I think what I'm going to do is to present some of the things that Dr. Miranda just mentioned, and I want to leave some time at the end for questions, because I want you guys to direct me in the direction that would be the most beneficial for you. I know that sometimes when I listen to really dry and boring lectures, which this is not going to be one of those, I think to myself, well, I wish they would talk about this, or I wish they would talk about that. And I don't want this to be that. So I'm going to leave some time at the end for, if I missed something, you can ask. So as I'm going through this, try to be thinking about something else, maybe write it down, and I will leave some time. Dr. Miranda, I'll rely on you. If I get long-winded, you can sort of cut me off so I can have that time and make sure that I do that, okay? So, and thanks everyone out there for being here and for you know, taking part of this. And the times are so very different now, and it happened overnight, and we need to deal with that, and we need to know how to deal with that. And I've got some really, really, I think, great things to say. We can always complain about it, because there's a lot to complain. This COVID-19 thing really shut down a lot of stuff, but I don't see it that way. I see it as maybe even an opportunity, if we can say it that way. As horrible as a virus is, I think it can be an opportunity for us. Let me just introduce myself, because I think that there's probably at the end a lot of people that may not know me. I'm Dr. Ronnie Ingle, and I'm professor of trumpet at the University of North Dakota. I'm a Edwards trumpet performing artist and a Stomvy mouthpiece, Stomvy USA mouthpiece endorsing artist. And I have, I guess at this point I can say, fortunately, I have a diverse background. And I say fortunately because that's what we need now. And this is going to be the crux of what it is that we talk about today, is really what you need. You need diversity. If you're talking about money and you're talking about how you invest your money, people would talk about diversity, right? You don't invest all 100% of your money into one company. And so what happens if they they fold, then you've lost all your money. That's why the smart people invest their money in a diverse portfolio. That's no different from trumpet land. You must be diverse. You must be, and of all times for you to be diverse, it's now. Because my background is a good example. I've been on the orchestral circuit. I've auditioned for hundreds of orchestras. Fortunately, I've made a few very, very good orchestras. I was in the St. Louis Philharmonic. I was in the North Carolina Symphony. I was in the Asheville Symphony. But for as good as that sounds, I've lost a whole lot more auditions than I've won. You know, you can't audition for 100 places and, you know, win 50 of them. It's not going to happen. So I've been on the orchestra circuit. My master's degree is in jazz. And so interestingly enough, now at the University of North Dakota, I'm in North Carolina right now, by the way, which is another interesting thing to say, is that look at what you can do in terms of teaching. I mean, right now, we're reaching 30 people. That's incredible. I've done conferences when there's 5 people there. Eventually, this conference is going to reach over 1,000 people. I think that's an opportunity. I think that's incredible. I think that's actually what I want to do and what I've wanted to do for decades. And now this virus has just simply forced us to address it. And we're going to address it today. But anyway, so at the University of North Dakota now, I'm not doing orchestra or jazz. I'm a soloist. And so it is a very interesting career that I've had. And it is diverse, and I'm thankful for it. So actually, before I even get started, I think that's the first point I want to make, is that you just need to be diverse. On top of that, I'm an educator. I am a university professor, and that's a different field altogether. So between all of those things, I have managed to withstand this virus. Between those things and my ability in technology, which is another point of our conversation today, and I'll get to that really soon. I've managed to withstand this virus. Some people, unfortunately, have lost their job. Some people have lost their livelihood. They've lost their career. Now, granted, I'm not performing live. None of us are. But, you know, if you take a step back, which we will do today, and if you will think about what direction you need to go, you could potentially be playing more trumpet now than you ever have. It's just going to be different. It's just going to be different. Okay. Last thing about myself, you know, I've done a lot of arranging too in the past. I have a arrangement of the Duvernay, Francois Duvernay solos for trumpet. There's 6 of them. Duvernay was the first trumpet teacher at the Paris Conservatory, and I published it through Carl Fischer. Carl Fischer happens to be the largest music publishing company in the world. And so it's just another diverse angle that I've moved. So granted, way back in high school, way back in college, my whole goal was to be a trumpet player. But look at me now. You know, I have to diversify, and that is the point. So again, I want my presentation to be meaningful. Not everyone in this forum is the same age. Not everyone is the same level. Not everyone is the same interest. So, you know, this becomes very, very difficult for me, right? Because I can't speak about things in a very, very specific way, but that's okay. And that's actually beneficial to us, because it's not important for me to, as we say in North Carolina, get into the weeds. Getting into the weeds means it becomes something that's not that becomes confusing, right? So I don't want to do this. So I'm going to make this presentation. I'm going to make it as succinct and as clear as I can, and then I'm going to get to questions. What we're talking about today is trumpet, but we're really talking about COVID-19. We're talking about how those two have to be dealt with. And what this is doing is it's making us revisit these old customs, the things that we've done throughout our whole lives that's just become commonplace. And isn't it great to revisit this sometimes? And because we're so busy in our careers and busy in what we do and just practicing trumpet, we neglect to revisit things. We only do it when we're forced to do it. Well, right now we're forced to do it. And once again, I think that's a good thing. A new direction needs to be considered. And that's what we're doing. Once again, I won't say it again because I'm repeating myself, but what a great thing to have a forum like this to revisit this stuff. And what we're revisiting really is performance, but we're also revisiting education. Now, I happen to be in an institution of higher education, but that's not what I'm talking about. Education is a thing into itself. You don't need the University of North Dakota. You don't need Santa Maria. It's true. Now, you do. No one is saying, because I teach at higher education, I'm not saying you don't need to go to college. That's not what I'm saying. But when you talk about the word education, well, you know, there's so much that you can learn. In other words, just to be very succinct about it, I always tell all my students that the education is yours. It's not ours. It's not the University of North Dakota. The education is yours. You have to seek it out. Part of seeking it out is going to college, but that's only part of it. The other part is, you know, I mean, the obvious one is you have to practice. Okay, you can practice right now. You don't have to be sitting in my office, right? You can practice. The other part is you can learn. The other part is you can read. You can become educated. And so that's important. That's important to know. Just incidentally, and this just came to my head, there's this person, now I think you should write this down. I think there's this person on YouTube you can go to, and his name is Steve Terryberry. Steve Terryberry, Terryberry. Now this is strange, so you have to just hear me out for a second. He's a guitar player. He's a guitar player. And when you look at it, you'll think, what in the world is Dr. Ingle saying here? What is this? You know, how does this relate to me? He's a YouTuber. He's a guitar player. He puts videos together. Listen, watch it. Watch this video because it is what people are doing now. It is nothing that was ever on my radar when I was in college. First of all, when I was in college, there was no such thing as YouTube. And I'm not that old, but I don't guess I'm old. Am I old, Dr. Miranda? Okay, don't say it. But so listen, watch this guy. Number one, he's very, very young. Number two, at his age, he is, in my opinion, the most accomplished guitarist that I've ever heard. Now, it is commercial music. So, you know, if you don't like the music, if you do like the music, don't look at it for that reason. Third of all, the ability that he has to have technology skills to put video and audio and together, and just the entertainment value is incredible. He's a multimillionaire. He's a multimillionaire. And it could be anyone. And when you look at him, you think, seriously? But he is. And he's doing these things. And people like it. And he's an incredible musician. And he has incredible skills in videography. He has incredible skills in audio. And he puts these every segment is 6 or 7 minutes long. That's it. But the kind of opportunities that he gets from having, he has 3 million subscribers. The kind of opportunities he gets, he turns down 90% of everything that he gets because of that. Now, I started mentioning this to you because this is not on my notes. You know, I happened to think about this, but we're in a time where you must think about things that are not on the beaten path, that are not things that we think about over the last decade. What have we been doing? We've been playing in our orchestras, we've been playing our gigs, we've been going to school, we've been practicing, and we've been listening to Dr. Miranda and me and people like us tell us what to do, right? That's okay, but the opportunity we have here is to revisit what it is that you're doing, because you could get even more of an education this way. Look at Steve Terryberry. One last thing, and we're going to get specifically and properly to the technology, and we're going to get to what it is that you're going to do. But the premise here is that, number one, and I don't want you to mistake what I'm about to say, so I want to preface it by saying classical music is important. It's not just commercial music, it's not just Steve Terryberry that I'm espousing here. Classical music is important. Orchestral music is important. It's hard now. Who's playing orchestral music? Nobody. No one. No one. But it's still important. We've got to figure out what is. Jazz is important. But there needs to be a market for it, for you and me to survive. There needs to be a market for it. If there's not a market for it, you're going to be standing out on the street corner with a sign that says, can you please donate $5 to me? I'm a poor trumpet player, and I have nowhere to play. And of course, in many ways, there's no sympathy there, because like, well, if there's nowhere to play, then you probably shouldn't play trumpet anymore. So we have to find a place. We have to find, until the time comes when this goes away, when we find a vaccine for it, for the COVID, right? You have to have a market for it to survive. Trumpet playing does not exist in a vacuum. It exists because you find a way. We found a way over the last 10 years. Maybe you played in an orchestra, maybe you played jazz, or like me if you're a soloist, but you're not that right now. But Steve Terryberry, he has no problem. He didn't have a problem 2 years ago, and he certainly doesn't have a problem now. So maybe that's something. What we're really talking about is popular music. Don't mistake the word popular music with Christina Aguilera. Don't mistake that. Classical music in Mozart's time was popular music. Jazz in the time of Louis Armstrong was popular music. A big band concert of Duke Ellington drew, there's big band dances at the Roseland Ballroom in California that had 2,000 and 3,000 people there dancing. That was popular music. So what we're really talking about is popular music. And popular music of the day always changes. Is jazz popular music now? Is classical music popular now? No one is putting value on it. I'm not saying it's not valuable. But is it popular music now? No, it's not. And that's true. Traditional music is always needed, and it has to survive. Traditional music, and when I say traditional music, that's not the best word for it, but when I say traditional music, I mean all the music. I'm in North Carolina right now, and there's a big bluegrass and country music scene here, but it's not popular music either. It's not, but it's important. Bluegrass, popular music, all of that is important. The bottom line is that you must make a living to survive. And if you're going to do trumpet, the question is, and then, why are you in this forum? The reason that you're here today is you have the question, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I'm intending to answer that. And I'm going to have the answer to that in the next 10 to 15 minutes so you can ask questions, okay? And that's what my presentation is about. Now, it took a long time for me to get to the point where I can actually get to the presentation, but all of this stuff that we just talked about for the last 20 minutes was very important so we set up the premise of where we stand. Sort of like saying it about history. If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, we know the history now. So let's talk specifics now. And this is the presentation specifically. I want to talk about three things, and I'll tell you the three things first, and then we'll break it down. Number one is that you have to have a project-based approach. That's number one. Number two, you have to take your education into your own hands. We talked a little bit about it already, but we'll talk more specifically. And number three, we're going to talk about applied lessons online. Okay, applied lessons online, the pros and cons about it. And let's start with the project-based idea. The easiest way for me to approach this is to tell you what I'm doing. What does somebody like me do in the era of COVID? What does Dr. Miranda do? What does he do? He has to play. He has responsibilities. There it is. There's the Edwards. What a great horn that is. That's my plug for today. So we're talking about project-based things. Right now, I have this project, and I'm doing it with a friend of mine. Dr. Miranda knows him. His name is Mike Hall. He's one of the great trombone players in America, and he lives in Virginia. Well, first of all, if we were, in my mind, if we were a decade ago, I wasn't collaborating with people in Virginia. The distance between Virginia and North Dakota is, well, it's about a 20-hour drive by car. So I was not ever collaborating with someone, that far away, but now I am, and now I can. And we are doing this project called What is Truth? It is a multimedia brass event. It's not just a concert. I'm not going and playing the Haydn Trumpet Concerto. I have to give you the disclaimer once again, not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I do that all the time. But this is a concert event. This is more in line of Steve Terryberry. Not to that degree. He's way better at it. You'll see. But it's called What is Truth? It's basically talking about, the fact that I feel like that we are living today in a post-truth culture. Nobody cares about the truth. And so what we've done is we've set to video music that addresses the question, what is truth? And we talk about it, and by the end of the hour, which is an entire hour of playing, it is easily the most difficult concert I've ever done. I actually just did it at the University of North Texas, which is the largest music school in America. And it was a great concert. But boy, I had to be at the top of my game. And that, to me, was not only the most meaningful concert, but when I finished it, I thought, wow, you know, because I'm doing this project-based concert, I think actually I'm playing better than I've ever played in my life. But the initiative was mine. The education is yours, right? My education was mine. I did it on my own. I did this project. Now, granted, this was just 1 month before COVID happened. But look at what's happening now. Because this is technology-based, I'm presenting this concert at the Big Ten Trombone Workshop. This is a workshop that's at a university in Texas. What's the university? Baylor University. And we can do that live, stream it live. You can have thousands of people attend and perhaps have a bigger audience than you would ever have live. It is an absolutely incredible situation. It doesn't take the place of a live concert. We can talk about that later. That's not part of this. But what we're talking about here is, what do you do? What do we do? We can, unless you have a cure for the COVID, which would be really great. The question is, what can we do? And this is one thing we can do. So I'm presenting that. We are also, we have a grant to actually put this together as a produced video. What I mean by produced video is all of the technology that is high end. It's going to be almost put together as if it were a movie. And we're showing video. One piece is a piece by Jacob TV. It's called It. And it is Helen Keller. Helen Keller was, well, she, let me look at the time here. What time is it? Okay, we're good. We're good. Helen Keller was, well, at the time they called her deaf and dumb. Deaf and dumb. How offensive is that? I mean, dumb. It turns out, just to not get too bogged down in this story, it turns out that Helen Keller was not dumb at all. She learned how to communicate with a guy, with a gal that helped her learn how to speak because she couldn't hear. And she earned 2 college degrees. But at the time, you know, we called her dumb. We called her dumb because that was just the words that we used back in the 40s and 50s. And she's part of the project, and we're thinking, well, is that true? Is that true? Is she dumb? And we pose the question and we make people think about things. Well, that's the project. So enough about that project. But my point to you is, you can do something project-based. Think about what you can do. Think about how you can deliver it. Right now, we're delivering a forum to ultimately over 1,000 people. That's tremendous. That's unbelievable. So what I want to give you the tools to do something project-based. You must engage in technology. There is no choice now. We've known that for a decade, so that has nothing to do with COVID. There is free software out there that you can use. I love the word free. Free is free. Free means you don't pay for it, but yet the interesting thing is that nowadays you can get high-end equipment for free. And if it's not free, it costs very little. For instance, and I hope you can write this down, there is a video software called Lightworks. That's what we're using. And if you go to my website, ronnieingle.com, you can click on videos and you can see the videos that I've put together using Lightworks. The one that I just put together was a Christmas tune, Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire. You know the tune, the Christmas song? Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. You see, this is why I play trumpet. This is why I don't sing. But it is a video of me doing that, and I'm using Lightworks. Lightworks is free, and it is the most unbelievable piece of software to put video and audio together. It is easy, and it has so much power. The audio that I use is Cubase. Cubase has a free version, but then there is a slightly upgraded version for a little bit of money. I suggest that you use that. But if you want free audio, there's Audacity. You probably already know about Audacity, but that's free, and it does a lot of things. Just my point to you, and I need to move on so I can get to everything and make sure you have questions. Make a small investment in video and audio equipment. A lot of it is free. A lot of it, for instance, chestnuts roasting on an open fire that I did, it must have been only 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, and you can see that on my website. I used this site called Bobby's Backing Tracks. Bobby's Backing Tracks. And I just downloaded the backing track and I played over top of it. Well, this is what people do in studios anyway, right? I mean, maybe you don't have the interaction with live people. Okay, I understand that. We'll get to that when we get a cure for COVID. But until then, you can do this. And it really, honestly, if I can say in a humble way, it sounds great. It sounds great. The tune is, there's the tune, and then I do an improvisation in the middle, and then you come back to the tune at the end, and it sounds really great. Bobby's Backing Tracks with Lightworks and Cubase. That's what I used for that project, if you want to see that. Before I move on, I want to mention something, and I really do need to move on. But as far as project-based, there are places where you can get free music. We all know about IMSLP. That is IMSLP, and you can get free music. But there is this thing, Dr. Miranda, you know about this, so just provide this to your guys. But it is called the Trumpet Institute, and that's the thing. It started with the Clarinet Institute, Guilherme, so that in your world they started it. But now the trumpet, you can also go to the Clarinet Institute, and there's a link to the Trumpet Institute. But there's free music. There's free music on there. As far as that's concerned, when you're doing a project-based situation, you have no choice but to use this technology. And there's apps that go on your phone that you must have. You must have these apps, and these are free for the most part. There's a couple of these that cost $2 or $3 US, whatever that is in reais. I don't know what that is, but that's not a lot. I want to mention them to you, but we don't have time to talk about them. Write this down and explore. The education is yours. Nobody told me about these. I went to the website and I looked at them and I researched them and I read about them and I learned about them. Tempo Advance. Tempo Advance. That's a metronome app, but it's much more than that. You just have to learn about it. Clear Tune. Clear Tune is another one. That is a tuner app that's much more than that. Trumpet Pro. Every single human being who plays the trumpet on planet Earth should have Trumpet Pro. Okay? Trumpet Pro. iReal Pro, like iPhone, iReal Pro, R-E-A-L Pro. That is backing tracks. And you can use it like Bobby's Backing Tracks. And the very last one is Shruti box. S-H-R-U-T-I box. It's a tabla. Tabla is an Eastern tabla. Shruti, S-H-R-U-T-I, Shruti box. I can talk to you about that for the next hour, just Shruti box, but we don't have time for it. Learn about it. It is the single most beneficial app I've ever used in my studio for students. In other words, when I use this app for the first time with my students, I see the most change in their playing in 2 to 3 weeks that I've ever seen in my career. This is worth its weight in gold. Okay. All right. That's project-based. I need to move through this whole idea about take your education into your own hands. We've already talked about it, so we don't spend a lot of time about it, but we want to talk about a little bit about lessons, education. Dr. Miranda, if he is your teacher, if you're at the University of Santa Maria, just because you have COVID doesn't mean you can't see him. And we already know this, but to the extent that it's beneficial, we really don't, we have to revisit it. The question is, and sometimes it's more of a question for the teacher than it is the student, is that can this be beneficial? Well, the only thing I want to say about that is we spend a whole lot of time, I think, complaining about how doing lessons online is not as good as being there in person. I will concede that there's reasons why that's true. But in my own teaching, I have found that I can do 95% of everything that I can do live. Now there is that 5% that I really miss because some of that is really, but 95% is really good. And the technology is getting such to where it's going to be about 96 and 97%, maybe even 98% very soon. What you have to do is you have to have a good video camera and you have to have good audio. So the problem most people are having is that they're trying to do this just with their computer. You know, right now I'm speaking to you over the computer audio and the computer camera, which works good right now. But if I'm doing a lesson, I would never do it this way. So all you have to do is do audio and video, invest in a little bit of equipment, and you can accomplish 95%. Now I will say one caveat and we'll move on. If I'm teaching a student like Sergei Nikaryakov, right, which I'm not going to be doing because I'm not so sure he needs to know much of anything. That if you don't know Sergei Nikaryakov, look him up. He is the most astounding player in the world, in my opinion. But if I'm teaching him online, it's probably not going to work, because the only thing that I would want to tell him is small, very small things about his approach and his sound. Very minor, detailed adjustments that it's possible that it would not come through the internet. But for my students, which sometimes when we do, for instance, we do, this will bring it back to you, Dr. Miranda. We have a tech skills exam. We have a midterm and a final tech skills. For instance, you need to know how to play your major scales. Well, I can have that exam on the internet all day. It doesn't change anything. You have to push down the right valves. You have to play your major scales, you know. So this is what I'm talking about with the 95%. 95% of it we can still do, so no complaining. Lessons, take lessons though with prominent players. You know, I tell my students that I'm your primary teacher, but I encourage you to take a lesson with, you know, Dr. Miranda, or take a lesson with another professional who's doing something like what you want to do. If you want to be a jazz player, take a lesson with Bobby Shue. If you want to, and now you don't have to fly to Albuquerque, New Mexico to take a lesson. You can do it with him online. And he is providing lessons online right now. Take a lesson with him. That's money well spent. There's a website called Mystery to Mastery. Mystery to Mastery. Sign up for it. The education is yours. There's an app called Play with a Pro. Play with a Pro. Write it down. It's so important. So the third thing is these applied lessons online. It sort of dovetails into that. And this pandemic that we have has really exposed the difference between the idea of being professional or trying to strive to become a professional and having your life pursuit be the focus. You know, what is it that we want in life? Do we want in life to go to college? And I can say this because I come from that perspective, so you know what I'm saying. I'm not, saying anything about going to college. I'm a college professor. It's so incredibly important to go to college. But you think about, is that your life pursuit? Going to college? Definitely not. Going to college is a step toward your life pursuit, but sometimes people, they forget about their life pursuit. They go to college and then they graduate and they forget, oh, what am I supposed to do now? What do I do now? I don't have Dr. Miranda anymore. And Dr. Miranda knows, because he comes from my studio, that, if he teaches you how to rely on him, he'll never do that. That's a mistake. Nobody relies on Dr. Ingle. Dr. Miranda never relied on me. He had me as a teacher and a mentor, but look at him now, because we never lost focus on your life pursuit, what it is that you needed to do with your life. That's the most important thing that you can do. So the education is yours, and that includes college, but that isn't the end. That's just the beginning. And we always love, Dr. Garbosa is the same. We love students to come in and say, hey, check this out. Look what I found out yesterday. I remember very distinctly, I've got to tell you this story and I want questions next. Dr. Miranda came into the trumpet literature class that we have. Do you remember this? You know what I'm going to say now. And he said, I found this. You look at this. Look at this. And he showed me this video of Jacob TV. I don't know if you remember that. He showed me this video of Jacob. He said, what is this? And this was in literature class. This was the, I think it was Close Fight. Do you remember that? Close Fight. And yeah. And Jacob TV, and I was watching it, and we watched it together in literature class. And we ended up watching the whole thing. We spent 9 minutes of my class, and I couldn't turn it off. I had no idea what this was. Clayton, Dr. Miranda brought this to me. I don't know everything. Your teachers don't know everything. And it's really great when a student comes in and says, what is this? Well, fast forward till today, and here I am doing a project called What is Truth, and I'm using Jacob TV's music. And part of that concert includes the piece, the piece Close Fight, and the piece called It. I would have never known about Jacob TV. So you take your education in your own hands, and the student becomes the teacher. And we are not arrogant people. We understand that that's how it works. And so just to sum this up, we have an opportunity now. I am presenting in front of more people than I've ever presented in front of. In this forum and in the trombone conference in Texas, I am performing in front of more people than I've ever performed in front of. My website yesterday had 27 hits. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's in just one day. That's in one day. Last year, I had 17,000 people on my website. That's an opportunity. Steve Terryberry has a video every week, and just that one video is visited by over 1 million people. So you think about that, and you think about whether or not that's anything anybody's ever talked to you about. At the University of North Dakota, we do not have classes in that. But now we're visiting it, and I think that's a good thing. So I'll wrap it up for now and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. And I'm assuming that you'll ask Dr. Miranda the question, and he'll translate it for me, and we'll go from there. Dr. Miranda?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Ingle. I will start asking you, Adilson, you know Adilson, you worked with him last year. And I don't know if he has his camera here. But he is asking some advice that you would give to your students because he lives far from the music scene. Now, he lives in a town where he doesn't have access to the music scene. He's asking some advice to that would help him keep focus, and what he needs to do while he's practicing if he is not having this presential music experience like playing band or in orchestra or trumpet ensemble.
That's a perfect question. Is this Addison?
Adilson.
Adilson, okay. That's a perfect question because that segues into exactly what we're talking about. And never before have we addressed that question in the same way. We've always sort of assumed that, and it's never been true. It has nothing to do with COVID, but we just have never addressed it. You see how beautiful this is? Because we get the opportunity now to address it because we have no choice. But what we're talking about is that it is not true. This project, for instance, the answer is become project-based. Become project-based. Think to yourself what it is that you're going to put together and do it. Purchase, it doesn't cost a lot. First of all, download the free stuff. And then second of all, purchase very, very cheap audio and video equipment and become project-based. Do with a backing track. Do something. You can record the Haydn with an orchestra, and if you have really the right research, you can do it on a small budget. There are things out there, and with Dr. Miranda, I will forward him some information he can forward to some people. Some examples of people who've recorded. Just listen to it. Just listen to the recording and think to yourself, okay, how did that person do it? And if I listen to it and I think, well, that person spent thousands of dollars. They went to a recording studio. They had other engineers and people that were helping them. And gosh, I can't do that. There's no possible way I can do that. You can. This example that I'm speaking of was done in a person's bedroom. It was done with free equipment, and it was done alone. It was done alone. And when you listen to it, when you think about it, number one, you've got your project out there. And number two, like I said about what is truth, I'm playing better now than I've ever played in my life. That's the answer. So yes, you live in I'm in North Carolina right now, where I grew up. My mother lives in a very rural area. None of that matters. It doesn't matter. I'm playing, and you can too. I'm playing better than ever, and I'm reaching more people than ever. And I'm busier than ever.
Yeah.
And I'm more diverse than ever. And because of all of those things, this COVID stuff is not affecting me a lot.
Great. Yes. Amarildo, if you could just shortly introduce yourself and make our question, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miranda. Dr. Ingle, it's a really pleasure to talk to you. I'm Amarildo, I'm from São Paulo. I'm a principal trumpet in a nice orchestra here, like Dr. Miranda said. I also has a brass trio. I was diversity, like you said. I has a brass trio. I teach in college, and I have some lessons on YouTube too. So many things I do. So I'm trying to of course to reinvent myself in this time. But I have a question for you that is like this. I have a dream, and this is a old dream, to start a parallel career as a soloist. So the question is, which advice do you have for me to build a nice parallel career as a soloist? Of course, now we don't know what is going to happen, but assume that the orchestras will come back, and what kind of advice do you have, like preparing repertoire or a specific repertoire or whatever? Thank you.
Well, that's a fantastic question. These are the kind of questions that I'm so happy to answer, because this is at my own heart. This is what I'm doing now. And it's turned out that I've loved this more than I have my other careers in jazz, my other careers in orchestra. I'm enjoying this even more. Now, we have to understand that you're asking two questions. You're asking how to be a soloist with COVID and without COVID, right? Right? With COVID and without the COVID situation. I'm going to answer the with COVID situation first. And please forgive me if I'm repeating a couple of things, but really it is why it's such a great question, because that's what we're talking about today. Become project-based. Be a soloist that has product and production value. Look at Steve Terryberry and think to yourself, how can I apply that to trumpet and classical music? I mean, Steve Terryberry acts like a fool. He's funny. It's just, but just see it for what it is and think to yourself, how can I do something like that? So project-based that has production value. Whatever it is that you want to do, add video and get out there. And what happens is that you're in your own bedroom, you're producing, just like Steve Perry. Look behind him. Look behind him. It's his desk. It's his closet. His closet is right there. It's his bedroom. And he has 3 million subscribers. And so project-based. And then as a soloist in the traditional sense, there's no substitute networking. Networking is important. So I think, first of all, let's you and I get to know each other. That would be great. And there is no substitute for networking. So take this opportunity right now to just cold call people. Cold call. Say, hey, who would it be? Are you a classical player? You're classical, right? Well, it doesn't matter, actually. It doesn't matter because, like for me, I'd say, hey, Bobby Shue. Hi, you don't know who I am, but I'm Ronnie Ingle, and please don't hang up, but I want to get to know you. And the most important thing to know is most people are not mean. You know, if you call Bobby Shue right now, he'll talk to you for an hour. And at the end of that hour, he'll give you his shirt off of his back. He's the nicest person in the world. We just don't tend to think that way. But again, COVID has caused us to want to do that. So call these people and say, you know, I just want to talk to you for a minute. I want you to get to know me. And I want to ask you for something. And he'll probably say, let's do some lessons. And of course, you'll do that because he's one of the greatest trumpet teachers of the 21st century. He will go down as one of our great players of the generation. And he'd be happy to spend time with you. I would be happy to spend time with you. Anyone. Nothing substitutes for networking. Of course, doing some projects that will keep this where it needs to be at a high level. So when this, I feel like, and I'm saying this in a very humble way, I feel like that once the virus goes away, we have a vaccine for it. When I am able to play a solo with an orchestra, I don't know, maybe your orchestra, who knows? But when I'm able to play a solo with the orchestra, I'm not going to have any trouble because I'm taking the initiative to do this project-based thing. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Miranda and I are getting together for a project we had talked about last year at Valle Veneto. And of course, we can't do it right now. We're going to do it. And when we do, it's probably going to be better than it would have been before. Because I think we both think alike, you know, and we're both playing better now than we played before. I hope that answers the question because it's really important to do this and it's really important to network. Dr. Miranda?
Yeah, Dr. Ingo, I want you to go to the ends in here, and very quickly, I'm going to let Guilherme make a question, and my student Guilherme is going to do the last question after, and you can kind of keep on closing here. Guilherme Garbosa, Professor Guilherme Garbosa.
Professor!
Guilherme, Dr. Ingo, Guilherme is being a very supportive of my work here at the university. He is a very good friend, and I'm very lucky to work with him. Yes.
Hi, Ronnie. Thank you for your speech today. As a musician, I have a question, a general question, of course. Do you believe that the new ways of making music will stay after the pandemic?
I knew you were going to ask that because that's really a thought-provoking question, and it is almost like, and so I'm going to answer it, but I do know that I'm not Nostradamus. You know, Nostradamus looks into the future and predicts the future, but I will tell you my opinion, and my opinion directly, the direct answer to that is, yeah, it will stay, but it's not going to replace things. We have a duty to be sure that music is preserved, live music is preserved, classical music, which is going away in America. You know, orchestras are folding, these kinds of things. And, you know, I want to do my part to make sure that this happens. I want to do my part to make sure that this doesn't happen, that jazz is preserved, all of this kind of thing. But, you know, this is history and this is life. Things change. They do change. We know the popular music of the time changes. And we have to, in order to be marketable, we have to change with it. We have no choice. When I was in college, we had very little technology. We have a lot of technology now, so I had to change. I could say to myself, I don't like it. And some of my colleagues do. Some of my colleagues say, I'm not going to deal with that. I don't care about YouTube. I don't care about technology. I have colleagues that still use records. That's okay. It's all right. But I'm not going to do that because things change. So these new ways of doing things become commonplace. They become ways of doing things that are better. We just don't know it. Some of it we don't even know right now.
Mhm.
But it is better. It is better. Despite the argument whether or not the internet is a bad thing or a good thing. We don't even want to deal with that argument. It's kind of like saying, which computer is better, the Macintosh or the PC? It's like, I don't want to get into that argument. Use whatever is fine. And this is the same thing. So it will become, in my opinion, not only the new way, but a better way.
Mhm.
While at the same time, I'm looking forward to the virus having a vaccine, and that we can continue to engage in some of the, if we can call it, the old ways.
Mhm.
But at the end of all of this, we're going to have the best of all of the worlds. And we're going to have a new way of getting together in a global community, a global trumpet community, or in your area, a global clarinet community. You will be in contact with my wife, who's a clarinet player.
Yes.
That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And we will do these things in ways that we never have been able to do them before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Guilherme, it's been a pleasure to work with him because you worked with him 2 years already when you came here. So, and you will not believe how he's playing his bass, his sound, his technique. It's very nice what's happened with him, and he's working hard. He's asking, just a second. Como a pandemia teve aumento de lives masterclass, he's asking.
Now you're talking about Guilherme, what's his last name?
Guadagnini. Será que eu falei certo?
Yeah.
Guadagnini. Guadagnini.
Just to distinguish between Dr. Garbosa, yeah.
Yeah, não. He's asking, since this pandemic situation, we are having more lives in the master classes and the music festival. How can you step out with all of those opportunities? How can we be more commercial, more? How can I say that? How can you be something que alguém quer me ajudar aqui na pergunta? So since you have many lives and masterclass and music festival happen online now, how can I make my life, my music festival, my video be more attractive than the others?
Does this mean as a participant in a festival or something else?
I mean, like if he wants to start doing videos, talk about trumpet technique, or if he wants to do short videos playing, how can his videos be better produced and not be on one more?
Okay, great question. And the answer is maybe not what you would expect me to say. The first thing is that you do it. You do a project. And the project that you do at first is not going to be a good one. And it's not going to look good, and it's not going to sound good. But then you do another one, and you fix the problems. and you learn from it. I never took a class in Finale. Do you know Finale music notation software? I never took a class in that. I just did a project and I struggled with it for a little while, and now I know how to use Finale. So you do the project, and the production value gets better and better and better, but you have to start from somewhere. So get the equipment, do the project, and look at other people's projects. I cannot tell you how important it is to surf places like YouTube. Go to Steve Terryberry and look at what he does. If you really think about doing what he does, you think to yourself, wow, this guy has skills. He has some unbelievable skills, but he's been doing it for about 4 years now. And he does one video every week, and he keeps up with the industry. And he doesn't just buy a very, very cheap video camera and use it for 4 years. He looks and finds that there's new technology and there's something better, and he gets that, and he figures out that because the technology advances, this video that does a much better job than my other video camera is actually cheaper. Things get less and less and less expensive, and they get better. And of course, there's the free things that we mentioned. So you have to do the project. You have to think about what it is you want to do. My project is What is Truth? My project is chestnuts roasting on an open fire. You know, I just have to be doing something. And if I'm going to do a Christmas song, that's one of my favorite Christmas songs, but I want to do it and have some production value. So you do it, and then you do it again. It's not the answer you want to hear, but it is the answer. Just put together something and give yourself a timetable. It can't take a week to do. You have to put something together in 2 or 3 days. See what you have. It's amazing what you could put together if you do the project 3 or 4 times and you start thinking to yourself, wow, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Well, Dr. Ingle, thank you so much again. It's a pleasure always to have you here, in person or online. I hope that we can have you in the future, maybe in a music festival or in a next forum or something like that. I really appreciate everything you have said to us. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And before we go, I just want to take 10 seconds here just to say thank you guys, every one of you, for being here. Thank you for listening to me. I know we don't move mountains when we do these, but I hope I've given just a small portion of something that they can help you. I look forward to seeing every one of you guys in the future, but truthfully, in the meantime, please contact me anytime. I'm very approachable. I'm very, very happy. Ronnie.ingle@outlook.com. Ronnie.ingle@outlook.com. You can connect with me through the university too, but Ronnie.ingle@outlook.com. If you have any questions, playing, anything like that, I'll be happy to talk to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure, such a pleasure.
Obrigado a todo mundo por participar no primeiro dia do Terceiro Fórum sobre a Pedagogia e Performance do Trompete. Amanhã a gente vai ter uma palestra que, na verdade, vai ser uma complementação dessa. A gente vai ter um artista de rua, um mágico trompetista que usa os cenários de Amsterdã, os canais de Amsterdã como um cenário para suas interpretações, e ele está fazendo esses vídeos agora que todo mundo tem acompanhado, e como trompetista, todo mundo percebe que isso aqui está no lugar, né? Quando ele toca. Amanhã a gente vai conhecer ele junto. Hoje de tarde todos vão receber um e-mail que é preciso assistir antes da palestra, porque como a gente não vai ter tempo para conhecer ele, eu quero que vocês conheçam antes, para ele já ir direto no show, que ele vai apresentar um show de mágica para a gente, com o trompete, né? Claro. Muito obrigado a todos, a gente se encontra amanhã, tá bom? Fiquem com Deus. Bye!
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.